This week's US CQM Forecast Alert is the effect of October employment on CQM and PCA forecast. Services import and manufacturing inventories both fell short of ARIMA forecast in September, offsetting their contributions to economic growth rate on the expenditure side. Since October, job gains dropped significantly to 12K. We will now look at the effect of the employment on the CQM forecast of economic growth on both the expenditure and income sides, and the PCA forecast. Private service employment increased by 9K in October, below the ARIMA forecast of a 163K increase. Private service employment growth is one of the explanatory variables for the increase in NIPA nominal service PCE. As a result, the growth rate of nominal service PCE was revised downward by 0.15% from 3.83% to 3.67%. Real services PCE was also revised downward by 0.15%. On the income side, the product of number of employees times average weekly work hours times average weekly income in each industry is used to estimate and forecast wage and salary disbursement in that industry. For goods-producing industries, this product fell by 0.40% in October, below the ARIMA forecast of minus 0.17%. In manufacturing, the product fell 0.59% in October, well below the ARIMA forecast of 0.08%. As a result, wage and salary disbursement in 2024 Q4 has been revised downward from 3.0% to 2.6% in the goods-producing industry, and from 2.3% to 1.0% in the manufacturing industry. The CQM forecast on November 3rd only updated their October employment statistics. Economic growth rate fell by 0.05% on the expenditure side and 0.08% on the income side, with the average economic growth rate on both the expenditure and the income side falling below 1%. The Fed's 25 basis point cut in the policy interest rate appears to have been appropriate. In principal component analysis, the number of employees is used as one of the monthly economic indicators to make up the principal component that estimate and forecast real GDP. The employment increase in October was 12K, which was significantly lower than the ARIMA forecast of an increase of 193K. As a result, the PCA revised down the economic growth rate by 0.66% from 2.09% to 1.43%, indicating that the PCA forecast is more influenced by the employment data than the CQM forecast. The downward revision of the GDP price deflator is due to updates to average weekly earnings in major industries. The inflation rate for 2024 Q4, with the core PCE price deflator growth rate at 2.71%, is somewhat high, but other inflation indicators are forecasted to be around 2%, and there are no signs of acceleration. So the Fed's 25 basis point cut in the policy interest rate still seems appropriate. Conclusion from this week's US CQM Forecast Alert. The first, the impact of employment statistics on economic growth rate is greater in PCA forecast than in CQM forecast. The second, economic growth rate in 2024 Q4 would be around 1%. The third, inflation in 2024 Q4 is expected to be around 2%, with no signs of accelerating. The fourth, the Fed's 25 basis point cut in policy interest rate on November 7 was appropriate. This slide contains additional information about this week's detailed CQM forecast.